Okay, so we're going to tie a pike tube today. This one's called a pink kraken. So here I have, this is a 6mm clear tube. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a portion of this behind the tying of the fly so that it extends the hook a bit further back into the rear of the fly, and then depending on whatever mount you make, you could actually cut this back. So if you wanted a 2-hook mount, something with a stinger on it, then you cut this back and then it won't be hanging right out the back of your fly. So I put a little bit of super glue on there, and we're using gel spun as usual for pike flies, and I'm going to wrap that into the blob of super glue there, and then cut off the gel spun. So first things first, we're going for sort of bulk here without a lot of materials. There'll be a bit of materials alright, like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pink bucktail here, and I'm going to cut off a good sized bunch of that. Now you'll find that for this portion from here down is probably best for it. This is better for salmon flies and that, but this portion down here is a little bit more like deer hair and will expand whenever you pull into it. So we take our bunch, and I'm going to put it on across that bit where we tied it in. It's probably overlapping it by a centimetre or so. I'm going to put on a couple of loose wraps around that, and then I'm just going to turn it around and make sure that I have an even coverage of the bucktail around it. Then we're going to tighten into that. It'll splay a little bit. Now if you want to be very puffy, you can trim this bit down, but I find this bit here actually helps like a cone to support this one when it's folded and gives that bit more body. So I super glued the tying there a little bit, and now I'm just going to fold all this back, and I'm going to wrap my tying thread in front of it, creating a dam back up to it but not tying over it. I'm going to put a little run of super glue around over that. So I'm just going to put a couple of loose laps on that just to hold it in place while I get the materials. So you've seen me making mixes of flash before. So here I used a variety of pink, silver, this is like an orange pearl, there's like a magenta, and I ended up with this flash mixture. As you can see, some pearls and some other accents in there. So we take a bunch of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to misalign the tips of it. So I'm just going to pull the bunches through each other a little bit until I can start to feel the tips of it coming out here. So these bunches are what, 8 inches long or so. So we take that off. As you can see, we now have a cone of bucktail, and that will support the body of our fly. It'll throw the tinsel and that out, and then your hooks and that can sit in this space that it creates at the back. So I'm going to measure that up on to there. I'm going to splay that around the hook with a loose wrap, and again, sort of just use your thumbnail or so and just tease that out around the shank, tie back on it, then fold all this back, stroke it back, hold it in place. I'm going to put a couple of wraps across that, and that will create the, let's see if I can get you back there. That'll come out into sort of like a taper and be supported like this, like a cone. Once I get all that back, I'm going to just super glue over this tie-in point. Okay. So next I'm going to take a bunch of hot pink fibre. I'm going to slightly misalign the tips of that. I just don't want block ends. And then we're going to tie this bunch. Now this bunch was probably about 6 inches long to begin with. I'm going to tie that in sort of 2/3 the way along its length. Let it splay around. Tease it out. So as you see, this is a lot less material than what I've had tied with before, but because of this cone of bucktail, it splays it out and should give us more movement with less material. Fold it back, and a little run of glue around the tie-in, but I don't want it folded tight down, so I haven't tied over it as such, I've just tied it back. And that super glue will set the roots of this. As you can see, this wants to fold itself out into like a big cone, but in water that'll streamline itself back. Now, next, a few more bits of flash. So I'm going to go for, this is which like a magenta, sort of a holographic magenta stuff, but use whatever flash you have to hand in the sort of right colour scheme. Tie that on, fold it back. I'm going to use a little bit of mirage here as well, because crinkle mirage, a couple of strands. As I said, these may not be fully visible to you just because of the way the light shines on it, but when the fly's finished it makes it look well. Now, I'm going to take a fluorescent pink saddle here and take out a couple of those, and those are going to go in on the sides roughly, slightly above the horizontal, one on each side. So I tied both in at once there, but like if you're not comfortable with that, just tie them in separately. And once they're tied in, again, I'm going to run a bit of super glue on my tie-in thread and wrap over that. Now, we're moving towards the head now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take, this is holographic silver, like light brighter angel hair, so I'm going to take a good bunch of that, align it in my hands, and then, see now it's like a wide bunch. I'm going to set that on and allow it to envelop around the shank there. Tie it down, fold this back, just comb it out a bit. So, this is a sort of a white ostrich herl. I'm going to take a bunch of those, maybe 3 or 4 at a time, and tie them in, pointing forwards. It splays around the shank a little bit. Move with the rotation, same again, and a few more for the bottom. Trim off these butt ends. And then we'll fold these ostrich fibres back and tie over them. Now, they might look a little bit messy at the minute, but they will sort of bed into it, and then when the fly is fishing, they'll give that sort of added sort of tentacly kind of movement. A little bit of super glue, and we'll finish it off the head of this fly with white craft fur. Take a bunch of that, hold it by the tips, and pull out the sort of shortest under fur. Allow that to wrap around our hook shank, or in this case a tube. There's a bit of a gap over here, so cut another bunch out. Same again. Bind that down tight, and then we'll separate all of this out. Brush it, and then fold it all back. Pull your tying thread through that, and then again at the front of that we'll just create a little bit of a dam, and then finish that off. So what I want to do now is to pull that back and then put a run of super glue. You want a nice watery one so it just starts to catch the bases of your craft fur there. So I'm getting like a little ring wet here of super glue, and in a few seconds that sort of sets itself into the base of those fibres and holds the shape of the head. So that is our fly. Now we need to add eyes. So in this one I'm going to epoxy them in, but what I'd like to do is to let that super glue to dry. So we'll take that away and get one that we did before. The handle back in. You can use the EvoStick Serious glue that you've seen me use in the past as well. So, I take one that we made earlier, slide it back on the vise, push the handle through, and I'm going to set it up on its side. So, here what I'm going to use is 5-minute epoxy. So, and I'm going to mix that up on one of these little post-it pad things. Here I have a whole packet, and so I just put a little blob of it from each bit onto my post-it pad. Then I'm going to use a cocktail stick, and I'm going to mix my little blob of epoxy. I get it on the cocktail stick, and then before it runs off I'm going to blob it on where I want the eye. Now the idea with the cocktail stick is now I can use the cocktail stick and jab that into the head material here, and I want to get it to sort of go through it. I don't want it the whole way through it, but I want it to get down to the tube itself. So there, this will then create how would you put it, like a solid base, a continuation of the glue through. So that blob is sitting here, and I'm going to put on my eye. I'm going to take, this is a bamboo skewer, this is a flat base on it, and I'm just going to push the eye down into that blob of epoxy. So a little bit come up over just the edges of it, and then see, that is our fly, how it's going to look. So that now is going to just sit there until it dries. So I'll take that away, and I like to leave these lying down flat, so I'll usually make 4 or 5 of the one pattern and then set them down flat, doing left eyes, then do the same for the right eyes, and then we will end up with a fly. When I have both done, we have our pink Kraken, and that's probably about a 7-inch or so fly. Now, as per usual guys, if you like what you see, hit the like button down in the corner here, and